my friends. Welcome to Sort of Brilliant, a show where the characters are made up and Hogwarts house sorting absolutely does matter. My name is Rachel.
And I'm her best friend and co-host, Lauren. Every other week, we're going to invade a fandom and determine whether your favorite character belongs in Gryffindor, Hufflepuff, Ravenclaw, or Slytherin. There's bound to be some arguments along the way.
But in the end, we're always right.
Well, according to us.
According to us.
Hey, what's up? So this is our podcast that we're joining the 6 million other podcasts that have been made during this pandemic. And obviously we're going to be the best. So hello, how are you? This is Sort of Brilliant.
Hi guys, this is Rachel. That was Lauren. And today is our very first episode, baby's first podcast. We're very excited. All right, so today, Lauren, what are we talking about?
You want to go right into business. How are you, Rachel?
I'm fine. I really want to talk about the sorting.
The awful thing.
Listen, being fully honest with you, I would love to sit here and talk to you all day because we're besties and all. But I want to get to friggin' sorting because today's episode is very exciting for me personally.
Yeah, it's going to be all downhill from here. We have
absolutely
nothing left to speak about after this episode. We're shooting our load on the very first go.
Yeah, we really are. And you know what? It's going to feel great. So let's go ahead and do it.
Any new listeners? You're all new, duh. Anybody who didn't come here via the Supernatural fandom, sorry. Once we get past this, it's going to be smooth sailing for you guys. But everybody from the Supernatural fandom, welcome. Hello. This is coming out 2 days before the finale. Cry with us. No, there's no crying here today. We're just yelling and screaming about characters that we love, and none of them are dead or have died or ever will die. Ever. The end.
But I can't believe it's ending.
Very sad.
I know. It's terrible.
Somebody probably is dead right now, and I'm not going to talk about it. So...
We're not laughing at your pain. We share your pain.
That's my pain too. If that joke was insensitive, it's not my fault. It's Robert Barron's. God, we're going so far inside for these people that are like, what the fuck is this show? What are they talking about? We're talking about Supernatural. The 3 men and the baby child that we're sorting today.
Oh, should we just call him the child, like the Mandalorian?
No, because nobody calls the child on Mandalorian. It's Baby Yoda.
I know, but we could start calling him the child. It would catch on. He's 3.
He's 3. Jack is 3. Although he, how old is Alex?
He's my age.
6? Is he your age?
Yeah. So
no, he's not. He's younger than you, isn't he?
We were born the same month and year, I believe.
I thought he was younger than you because when you talk about leaving your husband for him, it's like you're like a cougar.
Yeah, by like a couple weeks, I believe.
Scandalous.
Right. Not denying the other thing she said. That's, Alexander Calvert, my friend. I know you're listening for sure.
He found this podcast through the Supernatural fandom Twitter. We know he's very proficient on the internet. But we are sorting Jack, like we already said, and Castiel, and Dean Winchester and Sam Winchester, his 3 fathers. Can tell you right now, this episode is going to be a doozy. This is where Rachel and is this where we got our start? Is this the first thing that we ever sorted? I can't remember. It's been so long.
Very likely that this is the first thing we sorted. If not the actors themselves first, because we're cuckoo for Cocoa
Which
Puffs.
We're not talking about ever.
No, we're not discussing that here. But I do believe that Team Free Will, as they are so lovingly called by those of you who are not in the Supernatural fandom.
2.0, we have to add Jack in there.
Of course. This is a TFW, Team Free Will 2.0 episode. So this is absolutely our area of what we like to call expertise for ourselves, just amongst us,
If there was like those colleges where you can design your own degree and then they give you a bullshit piece of paper that says that you passed the degree that you made up.
Yes.
This is mine and Rachel's.
100%. 100%.
We founded the school. We have the only 2 existing degrees. I think nobody else can get into the program.
I think it's important to let them know that you have written literal papers about this.
No,
literal papers.
That doesn't count because it's Misha Collins.
No.
And we're not talking about real people.
No, we're not talking about it, but I want to let them know it's supernatural adjacent, and she's written literal papers about it. They're very impressive papers, okay? So she came with her citations. I mean,
I did. I have my citations. Well, my citations this time aren't as impressive because they're notes that say like S15, that one episode with the dude. But it's still a citation. It counts.
That's fair.
I guess we're jumping right in because we're that excited. We already went for it.
It's true. I cannot wait to do this.
We have to start with Dean. Like, there's no way that we can start with anybody else. The show arguably is from Dean Winchester's point of view, so it only makes sense to sort him first, since a lot of the show is colored by this fucking house that he's sorted into.
Yeah, it is. It definitely is.
What house is that, Rachel? I'm not totally sure if we'll always agree, but we've talked about this for such a long time that we are completely 100% in agreement. Well, on most of them anyway. I guess we'll see towards the end when we get to Jack. But Dean, Cass, and Sam we've talked about for like 3 to 4 to 5 years. It's just, you're just going to hear us agreeing. So there's no arguments on this one.
No, we are of the correct opinion that Dean Winchester is a Gryffindor. Okay, he's one of mine.
Filthy Gryffindor.
He's a filthy little lion, and we love him.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even know where to start with argument. I have 1.5 pages for him here. I mean, let's start at the very basic. We already mentioned in our trailer that you guys have probably already listened to. If not, go back and listen to it because you don't know who we are. Like, that's the whole point of listening to that. But Gryffindors are very rooted in their moral righteousness. The whole stereotype from the books is that Gryffindors are brave. But I think the important thing to think about here is that, like, what the motivations are and then the reason for doing things other than what they're doing. So especially how I look at Dean, bravery is a product of his motivations and not necessarily the reason behind them. We just had that, we're going to be talking up to the most recent point. So we have not seen episode 18 yet. So we're only 3 episodes away from finishing this entire show. But Dean has just told somebody actually that he's afraid every single day of his life. So if you were like very, very, very poorly sorting, you'd be like, no, he's not a Gryffindor. But he is, because he's so morally right. He's literally called the righteous man, which isn't even the biggest argument I have. That's like,
no, and
I should tell you something.
I was actually just going to say, like, if you look at it on the most base level, right, of why someone might look at our sorting and scoff, they might be like, oh, why? Because he's the righteous man. And it's kind of like, no, but yeah. I mean, when you really think about it, that's a big factor, okay? Because it's a huge part of who he actually is deep down. He's a very righteous human being.
Yeah, and he's angry. Like, we've seen that these past few episodes. He's really angry, which I'll get into. That's in my notes. But, like, if you start at the very, very, very beginning of who Dean is, like, so his dad groomed him, essentially, to take care of his younger brother. Like, he was his younger brother's father, mother, whatever.
Yes.
But, like, the grooming him doesn't make him the Gryffindor, because it's how he responds to that grooming that tells you, like, what house that he should be in. And he responded to it by becoming solely responsible for Sam. Like, everything that Sam does is on him. He shielded Sam from his dad. He felt like it was his fault that Sam left for college. He was like, I drove him away. He kind of takes that, like, responsibility for Sam's well-being, and he also transfers it to the entire world. Like, it's his sole responsibility to be a hunter and save all of these people. And he wants to be a hunter. He said countless times that he enjoys doing it. He's good at doing it, so he wants to keep doing it. But his reason for doing it is that he feels this responsibility. He's like, I'm good at it. If I didn't do it, it would be my fault that all these people are dying, even though people are dying anyway that he's not getting to. But if he wasn't doing it, it would actually be a tangible thing that he's like, this is my fault. Like, all of these people are dead because of me. Right. Like, we saw that all the way back in season 2 when he was in the gin the Jinn dream, and the Jinn kept showing him people that weren't saved because he had gone to like live this apple pie life in the dream world. So he kept seeing the people that he wasn't saving, or like he looked at those news reports where like that entire, I don't remember what it was, but him and Sam had saved like a whole bunch of people, and then the airplane. They had saved all those people from the plane, and then he looked up a news report that the plane had actually crashed. So he like takes that responsibility and he internalizes it so hard, and that's a lot of where his self-hatred comes from too.
And I think I completely agree, of course. And I think that even looking back that far at the family dynamic, I believe at one point Sam calls him like a good little soldier, right?
Yeah,
that's one of the big things.
Dad's good little soldier.
Dad's good little soldier. And I think that's a very important distinction to make when we're talking about him as a Gryffindor, because it's not that he's blindly following in the way that Sam interpreted it in that moment. It's more like he's internalized the grooming that he's gone under, right? Since his mom died, since this is all he knows, and how he's reacted to it is internalizing all of it completely. Everything Lauren just said is completely on point. He's internalized every moment, every responsibility, and in turn, he also takes on, I want to say, John is driven by this madness over losing Mary. Yeah. And we see that trickle into Dean very, very much, to a point where he romanticizes the memory of her. And now this is not to say that's a Gryffindor thing, right? That's a child thing.
No, but it's also like, I wouldn't call John a Gryffindor. Like, I don't even know if we're ever going to sort him. But Dean sees this thing that broke his family and broke his dad, and he internalizes it. And it's a moral right thing again, right?
Right.
This evil demon bad broke my family. Yep. The revenge isn't like twisted revenge like John's is. It's this pure childlike, maybe everything will be fixed if the demon is gone. It's extremely morally, like the moral, like he's got such a strong, it's not always correct, but his moral compass to him is so strong.
Yeah.
Like, he knows what's right and wrong to him.
Yeah. And you see it with when Sam goes to college. There's so much confliction there. Is confliction a word? No. There's you see it when Sam goes to college. He has so many conflicting feelings about it. Not that he spells them out for you, right? You have to learn how to read, Dean. Okay? On the one hand, he wants his brother to have a good life. Doesn't want anything bad to happen to his brother. But at the same time, he can't see how Sam does not see it the way he does. That how could you go off and do that and leave me and leave us and leave everything, even though this is an extremely toxic, ridiculous family dynamic? How could you leave it? While simultaneously completely understanding why he left it. So he's blaming him and not blaming him at the exact same time.
Rachel is voicing this weird ass paradox that when I introduced you to her, like, this is what it is. And this happens to Dean every time too. Like, he never doesn't, like, Rachel and I have talked about this so much, how Dean is like, oh, I'm just going to sell my soul for you and it'll be okay because this is what I have to do. It's my responsibility. But, or like, he's like, I'm going to lock myself in a metal box and throw myself in the ocean and you guys just have to deal with it because that's what's happening. But if Sam or Cass even like look towards like a knife or something, he's like, oh my God, the worst betrayal. How could you hurt yourselves when I have done so much for you? Like, it's this super weird paradigm. And you see it too. Like, so the whole selling his soul for Sam thing is the responsibility thing again. It's his fault that Sam died because he's supposed to take care of Sammy.
Right.
So him selling his soul and going to hell is fixing it. But then he's opposed to Sam's reaction about it. Like, he doesn't let him try to fix it. And then, I mean, when Sam goes to hell and he tells Dean to like go hang out with Lisa, he's mad about that. When he knows that he's going to get stuck in purgatory and specifically tells Sam, don't come for me, and then gets back on his own and finds Sam living with this weird lady and her dog, his reaction is like,
that
you didn't
moment
come looking for me. Like, and it's like, dude, you told me not to. Like, what did you...
I have to tell you, that moment in season 8 was one of the things that pushed me completely towards Gryffindor, Dean. I mean, I always had that inkling and that feeling because I am a Gryffindor and I see so much of myself in him, not in the way you just relate to a character, but in a way where it's like, Yep, would do that. Yep. While calling him a fool, while being like, that was dumb, but knowing full well I would do exactly the same thing and react the same way. That shit with Sam, with Purgatory, was so Gryffindor, it jumped out of the screen and slapped me in the face. To ask someone, to look at someone and go, do not come looking for me. Go live a life. That's what, right? Go live your life. I want you to be happy. Do it. And then to go to Purgatory and yes, suffer, but also kind of enjoy it.
Yeah.
And then come back and see Sam, somewhat happy, someone trying to follow Dean's advice. And he's just, how dare you not how dare you listen to me? You know better than to listen to the words I say.
I lived with a woman and her child for a year and I suffered. How are you not suffering?
How dare you not put yourself through the kind of suffering that comes completely naturally to me? I can just sit in this and suffer and I will complain about it, but I'm going to do it for you. I'm going to do it. And how dare you not do it for me? And I feel like maybe I'm making him sound like kind of a baby right now, like kind of bratty. Good. He is. He's a brat. I love him. He's a brat. Huge brat. Very common amongst Gryffindors. I'm sorry. I'm one of you. I'm saying it. I'm a brat. So is he.
That leads beautifully into this whole season is centering around his anger, which is something that the show has never verbally expressed before. But It's totally true. Dean's been angry his entire life, right?
Yeah.
You had kind of touched on it earlier. He's angry that he had to take care of Sam. It's not fair. He told his mom that he had to be a mother and a brother and a dad. It's not fair that he had to take care of Sam. He's angry about it. But the anger's rooted in moral righteousness. It's not fair to make a child take care of his you're 4 years old,
right.
Take care of your infant brother and raise him your entire life.
Yep.
That's not fair. It's not fair that he doesn't get to have a mom or a dad because of what his life is. It's not fair that he went to hell to save his brother and then broke the seal that started the apocalypse. It's not fair that he went to purgatory and Sam didn't look for him, even though Sam didn't tell him. He told Sam not to. And it's and this season, it's spoilers if you guys aren't caught up to season 15 yet. It's not fair that the free will he has built his life around and his moral philosophy almost is built around his ability to make a choice. It's not fair that he's found out that he's never had that free will. It's not fair. And he was willing, and this is a big indication of Gryffindor too, he was willing to let the people in his family get hurt because he was so, the idea that he has never had free will and nobody has free will and that he could never make his own choice ever again, the idea of that was so morally wrong. He was in that moment at least, he was I don't care.
Yeah. And
I can't live like this. Whatever I have to do, it's ending right now. It's not right.
And I want to point out two things. So leading up to all that, everything that you listed that he has said is completely unfair. Number one, he would never ask anyone else to do it for him in his place, though. Mm-hmm. It's not fair. And he's going to list all the reasons why it's bullshit that he has to do it and why anyone should have to do it or go through it. But he would never trade places with anyone. He would shoulder it and just live through it and suffer through it. And he'll complain. He'll stamp his feet about it at some point. But he'll go right back to it and endure it and live in it. And then, spoilers again for the last episode, up to the point that we're at anyway, he literally points that gun at Sam because of what you just said. He could not handle not having his freedom, not being in charge of his own choices. But what broke him out of that? Sam saying, would you trade
his
me?
Responsibility for Sam.
Right. So it's
and
almost
that's his moral rightness. It snapped him. Yeah. It
completely.
Snapped him out of the panic and the in the moment morality. This is wrong. His life is built around two things probably, but more so at the very, very top is Sam.
Right.
I take care of Sam.
Hugely. That's hugely true. That's his number one. I see very, a lot of nurturing in Gryffindors. It's a huge, huge thing in a lot of Gryffindors. And that's Dean. I mean, Dean could just put on an apron and be your mom for sure. And he is that for Sam. And so much of how he feels about him is because Sam is like his kid. It's not really, I know everyone says the show's about two brothers, but when you really dissect it and when you really look at it, it's a very parent-child dynamic. So anytime he's faced with this, my kid is looking at me and actually asking me, like, would you really do that to me? What would you have me do? Like, would you put me in your shoes? That's probably the only thing that's going to snap him out of it. Because that moment in that last episode, Dean, was shocking to so many people. Because the whole goal, right, was to save Sam. Cass and Jack too, but was to save Sam from this hellish life. And you're trying to save him, so you point a gun at him? So it didn't make sense to people. But if you understand Gryffindors, that made complete sense to me. If I'm so deeply overwhelmed and I'm in one of my fits, right? Like he was having one of his fits, it makes complete sense to threaten the person you are trying to save. Get the hell out of my way. I will kill you if you don't let me save you. But not really. It's just that threat. It doesn't make sense to other houses. It doesn't make sense to other people.
It's entirely a paradox. This house doesn't make any sense. I can't understand. I can't understand. And actually, what you were just talking about, first of all, huge credit to Sam and Cass for putting up with this. Like, letting their asses be saved and then getting screamed at when they save his ass. Like,
they're just used to it. Lauren, you get used to your Gryffindor.
But here's the thing. I remember this before the world changed. And our biggest concern was that Supernatural was ending. We had a Dean Cass divorce, and after Rachel and I cried, and we're very sad about it. Rachel and I are masochists. We love this stuff because we know the show's not going to screw us over.
Right.
So it's like, I guess we don't always know that, but we kind of have this optimistic faith that it won't screw us over, especially in the last season. So we look at this angst and we're like, delicious, give us more, because we know it's going to be resolved. But so this breakup, they're not technically, for those of you who are not familiar with the show, are not canonically dating, but they're like a hair's breadth away. It's not even an argument for the podcast.
It's not, you can't argue it. We won't allow it.
But there was a divorce, and the nature of that breakup was that Cass kept trying to speak to Dean. Dean was angry about something that wasn't even really Cass's fault, but it makes sense to a Gryffindor, and you can look at it without looking at Dean as a Gryffindor. You can just look at it from Dean's point of view and also see where he could be angry, right? And you could be upset about that, but you could be like, yeah, he's angry about that. So he was angry at Cass for something that Cass he couldn't really do anything. He could have done one thing, but it wouldn't have mitigated anything. So he's really righteously angry at Cass, and Cass is kind of the point where he's fed up with it. He's been trying to speak to Dean, and Dean is not opening up to him. And Dean is like, why is everything your fault? He basically was like, get out. And Cass was like, all right, bye. And then Dean was left standing there like, wait, what? Rachel's losing it. Because we had so many conversations after this happened where I was like, what did he think was going to happen?
I'm so sorry. I can't. That was the funniest shit. Look, it broke my heart. I loved every minute of it, right? The delicious angst. But I could not stop making jokes about it on Twitter because it was just like, screw you. You've ruined everything. Get out of my life. Okay. What the fuck do you mean? You're okay. Excuse me? I told you to get out. Yeah, so I'm leaving. What do you mean? Why are you leaving?
Why are you leaving me?
You told me to leave. I mean, yeah, but like, not really. Like,
and that's...
Oh my God. It was the most Gryffindor bullshit I've ever seen, because as much as you love your people, as much as Gryffindors, everything is about their people. Everything is about the people that they love. They're the first ones, though, that are going to get hit with your shit when you're flinging it around in one of your Gryffindor fits. Okay? Sam's the first one to get decked in the face. Cass is the second. It goes in order of importance of who he loves most in the world, all right? And that's it. You're going to hit who you love the most. You know why? Do you want to know why?
Why?
Because he knows in his soul they'll never leave him, really. They're never gonna leave me. I can say whatever I want. I'm gonna be a little bitch as much as I want. I'm gonna be a brat, and you're gonna take it because I've conditioned you to love me, and you're going to. You're never gonna leave. What do you mean you're leaving? and they'll be back, but like, what if they're not back? Like, this is it's insane.
But, like, I'm gonna you guys are gonna turn off the episode if I say paradox one more time. But Dean sits there on his lonesome with his headphones on, like glaring at the wall, like, everybody leaves me. I'm an awful person, and that's why everybody leaves me. And I better tell them to leave before they decide I suck anyway, and they leave on their own. And it's people constantly going, "We love you so much. You do not suck. We are going to be here forever." And he's like, "Get away, get away." And they're like, "All right, geez, we'll give you space." And he's like,
what do you mean? It's the biggest paradox. Like, he's never going to ask for what he really wants. He's going to do and say what he thinks is best for you, because at his core, he thinks he knows best. And a lot of the time, Dean's right about things. Okay, I'm going to give it to him. But sometimes he's not.
We have to give it to him too, because another huge thing that we point out, like with this whole morally right thing, like this is all from the own person's point of view, right? Like we can look at the motivation and say they're doing this because they believe it's morally right, but not every single Gryffindor is the same. They're not all just brave people who are like united by this being brave thing. They all have different ways of looking at moral righteousness. So somebody could be a Gryffindor and be what we would call evil because their rightness is something that's not super great.
Yep.
And like one of the awesome things that we've seen from Dean is that at the beginning of the series, especially under the influence of John, his extremely black and white moral grayness or moral righteousness was that monsters bad, kill them. Monsters bad.
Yeah.
Just straight up, kill them, get rid of them.
Shoot first, ask questions later.
Yeah, exactly. And we see his like evolution into finding that gray. Like some of it is the influence of Sam, and like Sam's a whole other story because I feel like half the reason he got there is just to defy John, but like we'll get into that. But Sam is a helpful influence in being like, I think all the way back in season 2 when there was the werewolf and then the vampire who drank cow's blood instead of human's blood, and Sam was like, let's not kill her, like she's not doing anything. So Dean has gotten to the point where he's like, okay, maybe monsters are as nuanced as people are, right? Like, so I don't have to kill every single one of them. And that becomes his new like understanding of morality, that you judge monsters the same way that you do people. And you see him like, Cass is technically, like he did shoot Cass first, can ask questions later, but he becomes friends with Cass. He becomes, like this came out of nowhere, season 8 again, he became really good friends with this random vampire that he found in Purgatory, which Sam was super like pissy about, but he was friends with him. It was one of his best friends.
You're making an excellent point, and I want to add that so he went from very black and white, right? The way that Dean got to not being so black and white about things was by inserting specific people that he deemed worthy of his love by putting them into the gray area. Okay? So Cass, of course, broke through Dean's bullshit and got right into the gray area.
And
Benny
it was work too, right? Like he had to...
It was.
Cass was more work than Benny. I think Benny was a more natural friendship because Dean had been used to it. But Cass had to do some work for Dean to be like, all right, you're worth my time.
Yes. And I think that that's a really important distinction to make about Dean, because he still to this day will have no problem killing a monster, of course, right? He doesn't care. He's going to look at them and be like, well, they're a monster, whatever. But once he humanizes them, once he gives them the opportunity, that makes all the difference. And that in itself makes all the difference about Dean, that he's even willing to give them the opportunity now. Because if you go back to earlier seasons, would have never even been remotely on the table, except for Sam. And I think that's what kickstarted it, was that Sam with his demon blood shit forced Dean into realizing like, okay, he's becoming something that's not human. I'm hating it. I'm really hating it. But it kind of opened his eyes, I think, a little bit to accepting more of the supernatural as having some kind of duality. So, like, started a little bit with Sam, definitely started more with Cass, definitely got into it with Cass. And you continue to see, though, that he'll take a step back and go, oh, but they're like, there's something weird. Like with Jack. Jack's a scary thing for Dean. In general, he's like, he's a friggin' Nephilim, right? But it's
It was spot on. I cannot
thank
believe.
you. So that's the first thing he'll say. He'll be like, no, we can't take him in. Like, look at that, look at this, whatever. But now he gives people or creatures the opportunity to prove themselves as not just being a monster. So he's absolutely evolved, but he has kept some of what made him him. You know, he hasn't grown completely off of the black and white. He's just, it's meshed into a gray for him now.
Yeah, and I mean, in that whole like convincing Cass thing, I was reminded. So Dean's whole like journey with Cass was convincing him of the fact that Cass didn't have to be a good little soldier, which I guess is kind of ironic considering what Sam was going for with him. But it was this whole argument to Cass that he had the choice. But the big, like, this is actually a quote that Dean gives. He looks at Cass and he goes, "There's a right and a wrong here." He's like, there's a right and there's a wrong. And to Dean, that's so easy.
Yeah.
The angels are trying to start the apocalypse. That's wrong. He and Sam are trying to end the apocalypse. That's right. Why isn't Cass getting it? He doesn't get it. He's like, I don't understand how you're not getting this.
Right.
And to Cass, he was looking at it totally differently. And like, we'll get into that when we talk about Cass, but he's a morality house, right?
Yeah.
Like that's his huge thing. Gryffindors are a morality house as opposed to Slytherins and Ravenclaws.
Right.
It's what's right is what they're going to do. And he sees, and like you can even, like with Cass, he can see moral wrongness in others' loyalty. Cass's loyalty to heaven is a moral wrongness to him.
Right.
Like that's wrong. He does not care about that loyalty. He doesn't see any value or rightness in it, even though other houses would be like screw morality. Like I have a duty to this person
right.
or this thing or this plan. So I have to go with it.
Yeah. But it's not in Dean's code. It's not in Dean's genetic makeup, right? To have that loyalty to that person. So obviously it's worthless bullshit. Stop that and get on Team Dean. That's his whole thing. Yeah, I know better than you, and do as I say, not as I do. Absolutely never do what I do.
He's got like a selfishness to him.
That's a Gryffindor. That is a Gryffindor.
Yeah,
fully.
He totally is. And like I wrote down here in my notes too, this whole thing with him having a duty. There was just an episode where he was with an old hunter buddy that was totally disillusioned to the hunter life. Like he was done with it. He didn't see it. Like we don't save enough people, so what's the point? And he's like straight up asking Dean, like, why are you doing this? Why are you still on this? Why are you hunting? Why do you care? And Dean just straight up is like, somebody has to.
Yep.
And like, that's him. He looks around at the world and is like, guess I gotta do it. Like, I gotta do it all.
Right. Yeah, that's him. I mean, you've boiled him down to like exactly what he is. Someone has to do it. Not anyone I love. Not anyone. No one else. Someone has to do it. I'm fit for it. I can do it. I'm gonna bitch about it. Of course I'm gonna bitch about it. But I'm gonna do it because it's the right thing to do. That's Dean Winchester. 100% Gryffindor. I can't even fathom putting him even close to Ravenclaw or Slytherin, right? Like not even close. And there are plenty of arguments for Hufflepuff Dean. You know, a lot of people we know have argued for Hufflepuff Dean. And we understand why. I'm just saying that these are the reasons that we've laid out that we really, really believe he's a Gryffindor. I mean,
but we could make arguments specifically against Hufflepuff Dean.
For sure.
Like we've had that fight before. Sure. Because like, I could, like Gryffindor and Hufflepuff are super close houses, right?
Yep.
I misspoke earlier. Ravenclaw is actually the other morality house, which is really funny.
Yeah.
But it's Ravenclaw and Gryffindor morality, and Hufflepuff and Slytherin are loyalty.
Yes.
But I mean, we've heard the arguments, and they're good arguments for Hufflepuff Dean. Like
they are.
He's extremely. You can look at him and go, he's community oriented. That's a fair argument to make. We just there's a difference in the reason why he does things, right? And I do not necessarily think that his motivation behind, like hunting is because he feels a community in like humanity, I guess would be the argument, or even the hunter community.
No, I think he thinks people are stupid.
Yeah, I was just about to say, it's not that he's on equal footing with them, it's that he has to protect them because he's the only one who can. Right?
Yeah.
So it's not even that he's a part, and I don't think he wants to necessarily be a part of that community. Like, especially when you look at him again, looking at Cass's place in heaven, he doesn't like that idea that he should be doing something because it's been asked of him by a collective community. Right. And then I guess this is where the argument would come in that, like, well, what about his family? Like, Sam can make him do whatever he wants. I'm like, yeah, but we've established Dean's stupid. Like, he's gonna do stuff for Sam because he feels a responsibility for him. Again, not because Sam is on equal footing. It's a child-parent relationship where he is responsible for Sam's well-being. It's not, his family isn't his community. His family is a group of people that Dean is in charge of keeping alive.
Yeah, right. He's like every little fan art meme that you see of like Dean running around in like his apron with cookies trying to keep the little like chibi Cass and Sam safe. Like that's probably how he sees it in his head. Like, oh, I can't believe I have to take care of all these kids. Like, but he loves it. He loves every minute of it. And it's definitely, like Lauren was saying, it's not because of a community-based reason, though, because I think the Angel argument that you just made was really good. And I think that you can make it for Sam, too. Like, I think that Sam wants very badly to be part of humanity, of normal humanity, of having a normal human life. I don't see that for Dean. And a lot of people are going to disagree with me.
Yeah, I was going to say before, that's an awesome segue into Sam, but before we jump into him, it's like, I think that's one of the biggest arguments, too, that people are like, Dean so badly wants that apple pie normal life, blah, blah, blah. But we saw him with Lisa, and he had it. And, like, granted, well, no, that's a big reason. Sam was gone. So his reason du jour for doing things, he was like, well, like, where's my compass now?
Right.
Sam told me to go live with Lisa, so I guess that's what I'm doing now. But he super didn't seem happy or settled in that role.
Not at all.
And it kind of felt like he was doing it because it was Sam's dying wish.
Yes.
And then, like less than a year later, he goes to purgatory and comes back and was like, I'm ashamed for admitting this, but I fucking loved it there. Like,
right.
It was great.
Right.
Like, it was pure and...
Listen to me, okay? You can't trust what Dean says. You just can't. I'm sorry. Like, if he says something like, it was so hard and I hated it there. This is the paradox. Like, he's bitching. He's just bitching. There's so much truth. If you peel back the ogre, the onion, right? The Shrek of Dean, you peel it back. There's so much more than the surface level bullshit of what he is saying to you. Okay? He enjoys the nitty grittiness of hunting. He enjoys it. I fully believe that. Okay, so it's very like, yeah, this is my responsibility and like, I have to do it and whatever. And meanwhile, he's in the back, like looking at his blade going like, like he's super happy about doing it too. He wants people to argue with him too, right? Because then he can get mad about it. Like all up in his moral righteousness. Like, how dare you suggest that I not go hunting? Like, of course I'm going to hunt. I'm the only one who can hunt. Somebody's got to do it. Like, yeah, he's a complete paradox of a person. So I understand where these other arguments for like Hufflepuff or the argument that he wants out of the life, I get where they come in. But I just think it's one onion layer off from the truth. I think you just peel back that one layer and you see like he's bullshitting. He's in the back cleaning his guns, fucking skipping around in his shorts like, yeah, I love this. Like, he loves it. I believe that.
First level for Dean, his family's safe. But I know the people who want this. And I mean, I get it. Like, domesticity is awesome.
Yes.
So, but like, I cannot see Dean, like maybe when he gets super old and doesn't think he's going to make it anymore, but I cannot see him, number one's down, my family's safe, but just sitting in the bunker and never going on a hunt again. Like, it's twofold, right? My family's safe, but also I'm still going to go save all these people that I can.
It's what he's good at. It's what he's genuinely good at. And he's good at so many things. He's fucking brilliant, right? But he's honed his craft. What did he say in that one episode? Honey, there ain't no other men like me, right? That sticks with you with Dean. Okay, it's very true. He believes it of himself, right? And on the flip side, he believes
and also he doesn't
shit.
Yeah.
So that's the paradox of Dean. And that paradox could only belong to a Gryffindor.
It's true. And I was laughing during this entire conversation because Sam is a Slytherin. And I don't know many people that could put up with that kind of behavior as gracefully as Sam does, spending his entire life with him. I was gonna say like living with the momming, but like here's the one of the things I have written down for Sam is he has a me mentality.
Yes.
Remember that I'm a Slytherin, and I'm gonna be very like matter of fact about myself as well as Sam. Like, this is just what it is. We have me mentalities. Like, we think about things like complete opposite of Dean, who thinks about responsibility and then moves inward. A Slytherin is myself and then moves outward.
Right.
So there's an extreme argument that he takes for granted that Dean is essentially his parent figure his entire life. Not blaming Sam for that. It's all he knows. Like he towards the very beginning when he's like an infant, he can't understand that this isn't how a normal family dynamic works. No. And then as he grows up and begins to realize, like, maybe my dad should be taking care of me, not my older brother, it's just kind of something that he takes for granted because Dean's putting on this face. Well, he likes doing it. He's putting on this face. But, like, you definitely see him take it for granted when, like, Dean is constantly shielding him from John. Like, Sam actively gets into fights with John, like, provokes him. And Dean is there to shield him from the worst of it. And, I mean, he went to college, obviously, and just left Dean all alone with John without a second thought about it because
Poor Dean.
That's what he wanted to go to college. And like, right. All right, Sam, good for you. Go to college. Like, you should do what you want. But he did leave Dean alone with John and kind of like left that life behind, but also left Dean behind in the process. And then purgatory, Dean said, don't come looking for me. Totally on Sam's side here. Okay. I'll just go on with my life.
Right.
And he finds a good life with Amelia and the dog that he almost killed. But
yeah, I think also kind of like how we had said before, you can take a step back and see things from Dean's perspective outside of being a Gryffindor, right? One of the things I can see from Sam's perspective outside of my opinion of him as a Slytherin is the way he reacts to all the situations that Lauren just mentioned is the way a child reacts to a parental figure. The kid goes off to college. The kid fights and argues even though like there could be a peacemaker there. They're pissed at the parent. They're going to fight and argue. They don't always take parents. They don't always appreciate what a parent does for them, right? And I don't know that I'm not saying he's a Slytherin, that's why, right? It's just that this is how he's reacted to the cards that he's been dealt. Dean is his father figure and his mother figure at the same time, and he treats him like how a kid treats a parent. So this is no one shitting on Sam, right? And it's especially not Lauren shitting on Sam because Lauren's a Slytherin.
And Sam. I mean, that is a little bit of a symptom of being a Slytherin too. Like it definitely comes from that point of view and you can look at it that way. But one of the other things about being a Slytherin is that you can, because you are me, like Rachel had that whole awesome talk about how Dean looks at other people by like monsters and whatever by humanizing them through people he loves first or whatever. Sam is going to do that, but he's going to place himself in other people's situations and then understand the reaction through what he would do.
Yeah.
So he has a hard time understanding that people aren't thinking the exact same way as him, which I think is one of the factors there with Dean, where he's like, I'm going to college, see ya. And Dean's like blustering and like, how could you do this to me? And Sam's like, do you want to go to college? You can.
Yeah, he's like, no one told you can't. And Dean's like, but like, I can't. And Sam's like, but you can. Watch me.
Right. Or but like, and like even more broadly than college, like, do you need some time away from me? Like,
right.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
I understand that. And he doesn't understand that Dean isn't thinking the same way as him.
Right.
But like, and then another factor of Slytherin, I guess, that going to college could point to too, And especially like giving up the life. Like Sam genuinely wanted to not hunt anymore. And you see that several times before life beats him down so much that he's like, God, I can never get away. Like I have to be here. But he is extremely ambitious. Like, and I feel like that attitude was rooted in, like, I don't think Sam thought he was bad at hunting, and nothing ever indicated that he was. He jumped into it after 4 years of hiatus and was like, fine, like perfect. And he's extremely smart. But I feel like that attitude was almost rooted in, I'm not meant for hunting. I'm too good for He was going to be a lawyer. He got a full ride at Stanford and was about to get a full ride to Stanford Law, right? Yeah. Like he was about to get into the program. Yeah. He was like, I am not meant for hunting. I am too good for this life. I'm going to college and I'm going to marry a girl and I'm going to have kids and I'm going to be a lawyer. Like that's just me.
And even if you look at it, you don't even have to say like, I'm defending Sam here because, you know, I feel bad. I don't want to paint him. I don't want to look like we're painting him a certain way, right? I adore him.
I love how you keep like defending him when I'm just describing my own actions.
Yeah, I know. But notice how I called Dean a bratty little bitch because I feel like I am exactly the same way and I have to defend the Sam. I have to defend you, right? So, okay. I don't even know if it's so much like I'm too good for this so much as it is I deserve more than this, right? I don't think
and also like I'm not meant for this. Like exactly. I'm not meant for this.
Yeah,
this is
you're
not
exactly
for
right.
me. Yeah, it's like this is not for me, and like I'm just like you can't make me. Bye. Like,
and I could see Dean being like, so what are you saying? Like, so I'm just good, like you're too good for it, but I'm not. Like, oh,
you don't even have to see Dean saying it. Like he has said this stuff, hasn't he? Like he's been like, so what? You think you're too good to be hunting with me, or like I just have a GED? Is that it? And Sam was like, no,
I can leave too, dude.
Right? Like, do you want help getting into college? Because I got pretty good at it. Like,
right.
But I mean, I guess going past Sam and his wish for a normal life, which he has given up, Sam has what I like to call, and which I recognize and admire in myself, and like, no, it's totally awful. Like, there's, you know, when you read books growing up as a kid, and especially fantasy books. And Harry Potter does this. He's literally called the chosen one, right? But all these other books, like there's only this one person that can solve this one problem. Like it's just this one person. And like, it's not even a responsibility thing. Like with Dean, it's just that it's so much certainty that you were made and built and all the cards fell into place that you are the one person that can solve this problem. And I call it the chosen one syndrome. And Sam has it. He has it so badly. It's totally different from Dean being like, I'm good at hunting, so I should just save everybody I can. Sam has a hot demon chick show up and be like, listen, man, you're going to save the world from the apocalypse. All you got to do is suck my blood every once in a while. And he's like, done. Deal. I'm going to save the world. This is how. Yeah. And Dean's there like, blood? That's bad. Wrong. And Sam was like, bro, I got this. I'm going to save the world. And I think part of that too, more than just like the chosen one syndrome, was also rooted in like Slytherins feel like power is the way to go in certain situations. Like a lot of the time, it's when you hold all the cards, you're like, this is it. Like I've got it. And that was the demon blood thing for Sam. Like it was power, and he got genuinely addicted to it. He was addicted to demon blood and the power that came with it. And it also, I think, falls into this other thing that's with Sam, which is, especially in the early seasons and before he realized that he had been set up to be this like boy king or whatever, he was extremely concerned about being called a freak and about his image and people calling him a freak. And Slytherins are concerned about their own self-image because the way that people see them necessitates how you act and react to a person. If you know that somebody sees you a certain way, then you have to use that character that they have of you to, like, I don't want to say manipulate because that's like, if you want to boil it down, that's what it is. But like, if you want to end up your end goal, which Sam often does, then you have to be able to move around people. So when people are calling him a freak, he doesn't know how to react to it. He can't control the situation.
Right.
But then he's given the answer, like, this is why people are calling you a freak, because if you drink demon blood, you can do all this shit. And then suddenly he has control because he has all this power.
Yeah. And Sam doesn't even need to try to prove that he has, like, that he is the chosen one, right? He has that validated for him, like, at least once every season to himself, right? He's from the point that he's a little baby, right? He gets picked to have this demon blood curse. Then he's the only one who survives it, kind of. He gets a little bit stabbed at the end of season 2.
Yeah, but
what I'm saying is,
which he knew was going to happen. So,
but he continues to take on these roles or have these roles thrust upon him, where he's the only one for it. He's meant to do it. He's the chosen one. Whether it's the demon blood thing or it's you're Lucifer's friggin' vessel. You're literally picked to house Lucifer, or you can do the trials in season 8. Like, he takes that right on. Or even just recently in this past season with Rowena, who's like, she's like, you got a witchy thing going on. Like, we could train you for this. Everything sort of falls to him. Or even like Lauren said before, he had that gap where he wasn't hunting and then went back into it and was just amazing at it. Like, Sam barely has to try, and these chosen roles fall in his lap. And he's like, yes, absolutely.
Yeah,
that's
totally. But like, yeah, and like this whole chosen one thing again, like the whole demon blood thing was, you're gonna stop the apocalypse and you're the only one that can do it. That's the line that they fed him or whatever. But Sam, as a Slytherin, is also deeply aware of having to protect the people that he has chosen as his people, which I mean, is Dean, obviously. It was Jessica, and actually we see it there. It's much, his need for revenge was much more similar to John and Mary than it is Dean and Mary. Like, it was directly parallel, right? That his was a little more twisted. It was a little more, this is my person, and you took my person from me.
Right.
And now something bad has to happen to you. But like, he's got this extremely close circle, and it's only this circle and himself that he really gives a shit about. And like, here's where you're going to be like, but Lauren, he's a hunter. Like, he saves people. What are you talking about? He only gives a shit about some people. He's a superhero, right? Yeah. Yes. Sam doesn't not care about other people because he has this close circle that he like dedicates himself to. It's just that when it comes down to Dean or the entire world, he's going to kill death, so Dean is okay.
Yes, he will.
That's what's going to happen.
And you just see, when you stack Dean and Sam next to each other in these ways, you just see the differences and how clear the sorting is for them, right? Like, Dean was told, you are the Michael vessel, this is it. And he flat out is like, F no, never. Sam is told that he's the Lucifer vessel. At some point, Sam would say yes. Probably because he thinks he can fight Lucifer off, right? He's got the chosen one complex.
Well,
he thinks he can do
That's
it.
what happened.
Right. But of course, but I'm saying his motivation for it, right? And you just see them next to each other and it becomes so much more apparent. Like, Dean would have probably tried to find another way besides killing death to save Sam, but he wouldn't have let Sam die. Like, never. Mm-hmm. It's just never going to happen. But the way he goes about doing that is totally different than Sam. Sam is just like, yeah, I'm going to kill death. And you know what? It's going to work out. I'm going to make sure. Like, he doesn't even second guess it. He doesn't even think, we have to find another way at that point. It's like, code red. I have to do something and only I can do it. It has to be me. I'm doing it. That was it.
We see it too, don't we? Season 2, Sam dies. Within 2 days, Dean has sold his soul and is ready to die for Sam within a year. And Sam's devastated by it because Dean's his person, obviously, and there's nothing he can do about this. Dean dies and he comes back and goes to find Sam and is immediately like, did you make a deal? Like, ready to yell at him for doing the exact same thing you did. And Sam is like, no, I didn't do anything. You're like, yeah. And you're like, oh, all right. Well.
Right. No, that's the complete difference between them. I mean, and it's not to say one's better than the other. I mean, they're both morons, right? But
yes.
I love them.
No, they are. They are both morons.
They are.
And like this codependence, like, like completely muddles it all up too, because like that toxicity is lying on top of their houses. So it's
it is. And I think that's a big Gryffindor Slytherin thing too. Like you could say Gryffindors and Hufflepuffs are very closely related. I think Gryffindors and Slytherins are very, very closely related too. And there is definitely a toxicity and codependency that can come from it, because they both houses have this feeling of like, it has to be me. It can only be me. Like I have to do it. How they feel about it is different, but it allows them to wrap themselves in this little bubble where it's like no one else can understand. And that can only breed codependency and toxicity at a certain point, to a certain level. I mean, when you've got these guys in the world that they live in, right? And it's not every Gryffindor and Slytherin relationship in real life. But for them, it's easy to see where that came from. Nobody else can really relate to them. So, yeah, I kind of see where the codependency comes from, even though I hate it.
And they're getting better at it. They really are.
Yeah.
And Sam's got this thing too, right? Where like the self-preservation of himself and the preservation of his like loved ones comes first. But that can be overridden when Sam knows what's best, which we actually like just saw, because Sam is also like, not all Slytherins are smart. Like some of them, like there are a multitude of different ways that you can end up at your end goal, which is also something that Sam does. We just saw it in the latest episode when like the empty was going to kill him and blah, blah, blah. And Sam like off the cuff comes up with this great lie where he's like, he manages to get away without dying, to get the empty off his back, and to get the book that he had showed up for to begin with. Like he got everything that he wanted with absolutely no hassle, because he was able to come up with this lie right away. And we saw that also in, there was an episode this past season where Chuck was trying to make him lose hope. And Dean and Cass had actually figured out a way to trap Chuck so that this whole problem would be over with and they would be done. But Chuck had shown Sam a lot of like the future, basically. Like, this is what's going to happen if you go through with your plan and get rid of me. And it ended up not well. And so Sam's desire to get rid of Chuck and to immediately save his family was overridden by the fact that he came to the conclusion that like, this is not the best thing to do. Like, logically it isn't. And like, I didn't say this about Dean, but Dean like goes on gut instinct, which is also a very Gryffindor thing. He immediately is able to figure out right, wrong. This is the way the direction I'm going.
Yeah.
And Sam like is very methodical about it. And since he's so good at figuring out the end game, he also works through other people's end games. Like I said, he puts himself in that situation and then works through it how he would work through it. So I told Rachel when that happened, I was like, it would only be Sam. It could only be a Slytherin that he's like, don't do this thing that'll save our lives. That Dean and Cass would like listen to and be like, okay, all right, sure, we won't do it.
And I don't know if I'm jumping the gun here by bringing it up, but a lot of the things that that Lauren just brought up are some of the arguments for Ravenclaw Sam, right?
You are jumping the gun because I wanted to talk about Soulless Sam.
Oh. Well, then let us pause and skirt back, because that's a good point.
Sam.
Me too.
Yes. Oh. So Soulless Sam is the first soulless person we saw on the show. So naturally, we were like, every soulless person's going to be like this. Like Sam, I love Soulless Sam because I think Soulless Sam without this messy. This is Slytherins too, right? And this is part of the codependency thing, because Slytherins often have to check in, is my morality tuned the right way? And when a Gryffindor is right there without you having even to ask, going, no, you're like, oh my God, that's where the codependency is. But without this messy need to be correct all the time, or to look good, I don't know, to be correct in humanity, without his soul, Sam was just like, extremely like cunning and coolly logical. Like Dean got turned into a vampire and he sat there and watched, and then was like, and then Dean's like freaking out over it and saying, I had a cure, like you were fine. I just needed this to happen. And like Dean could not comprehend, like that was wrong. Like how dare Sam do that? And Sam's like, without this, his soul weighing him down and be like, that probably was a little wrong to let your brother get turned into a vampire. He was like, this is what needed to happen. And like, and here's the thing too, like we thought this was going to be all soulless people. Like it was just going to be like morality stripped away and there you go. But we saw those random people that like went absolutely feral.
Yeah.
Like they were just killing people, and that wasn't Sam.
Nope.
And we saw Donatello, who like really isn't changed at all. Probably because I suspect he's a Ravenclaw. He told Dean actually, because Dean had a conversation with him, like, how do you keep yourself in check without a soul or whatever? And he's like, I just have to constantly like have a model and think about it. And Sam wasn't concerned about that. Sam was concerned about getting from point A to point B. And to getting there in a way that benefited him. And like, I love Soulless Sam. I love Soulless Sam.
And not to say that Sam is not generally an empathetic person, because he is, right? He knows how to, he definitely can pick up on other people's feelings, definitely can empathize with them, definitely knows how to make them feel better and put them at ease. He also knows how to use that. So that's something that we see Sam do a lot, right? Like, just say he's interviewing or talking to the people from the first 5 minutes of the episode, right? Later, he's interviewing them. He knows just how to tilt his head and bat his eyelashes and empathize with the person to inevitably get what he wants. And it's a win-win for Sam. He made the person feel good and he got what he needed. So it was very jarring to see a Sam with no empathy. When he was soulless.
Because he uses empathy as a tool to connect with people and to get what he wants. And like, it helps, like, you can't be mad about it because everybody gets what they want out of it. But he definitely uses it. And I guess that's another thing to say too, which can lead us into not a Ravenclaw Sam. But you're like, wow, Sam sounds like he knows what's going on and is pretty smart. Like, why isn't he learning from this weird ass codependency thing? He doesn't want to because it suits him.
Yes.
Straight up. He could easily, unlike Dean, he could get out of there. And
he has.
Why should he? Yeah, exactly. He has. Right. But it suits him. So why should he change what is working so well for him? Right. And for I guess they get to the point where they're like, we've died so many times, maybe we should like think about not dying for each other anymore. And then they're like, but like the world is saved, so we like it's worked. Yeah.
Like, why not? Yeah, that is definitely a major point about Sam, because I definitely feel that if something in the dynamic changed between them, the person who could walk away, it could be Sam. It would hurt him.
He has.
It's not to say it doesn't hurt him. It's not to say it wouldn't hurt him. It's not to say it doesn't break his heart. It's his brother. He loves his brother more than anything in the world. That's his person, number one. But he could walk away. I really believe that. I fully believe too that Stanford was an attempt at that. And like Dean easily pulled him back because it's Dean, but Sam like was able, like he was propelled by anger. And then he, like, I've done this all the time. I'm just like, if I don't talk to people, maybe I can forget about them. And I really think Sam was trying, absolutely not that he did not love his brother anymore and would not be upset if he had heard something happen to Dean, but it was just that he was like, this isn't working for me anymore, and it's not in my best interests for my mental and emotional well-being. So I can also see maybe Dean coming to that conclusion, right, and saying to him like, you did that because it's what was best for you. And then I can so easily see Sam like with his hands, like when he claps and he's like, but Dean, it would have been good for you too. Like completely arguing his point, and he's right. But that's not necessarily why he's arguing it, right? He's just trying to appeal to Dean to make him see it his way. And at the end, he's right. It could be good for Dean too. Dean doesn't want to hear that shit. But Sam is like arguing his case because one, he doesn't want to look like a jackass, doesn't want to look like an asshole. Established, you guys do not like looking like freaks, assholes, whatever, negative labels. No. He needs to be right. He needs Dean to see that he's right. The most frustrated Sam gets is when he can't convince Dean of anything. Like sometimes if it's not worth the argument to him, he just throws his hands up and he's like, whatever, you're stupid. But he's so frustrated when Dean can't really see his side. So I could see this hypothetical fight where he's just no, let me argue my case because I was going to be a lawyer and I can do that. It's very Sam.
Which takes us to, I guess, not a Ravenclaw. Like, our biggest argument for not a Ravenclaw Sam is like people's biggest argument for Ravenclaw Sam is he do research. He like reading books. He always on Wi-Fi doing the research. Ravenclaw Sam. Oh, and we're like, No. Because I guess like the big thing that we can do too is he is not learning things for the sake of knowing them.
Right.
He's learning them in order to do something with them, to use them to his advantage.
Exactly. To better himself.
Yeah, to better himself. And like that's I don't have anything else to say about Ravenclaw Sam because there's
no, it's just not as simple as Sam is the research person. He's always been the person with his head in a stack of books. So obviously he's a Ravenclaw. There's so much more to Ravenclaw than smart, book smart.
Yeah.
There's so much more to
Ravenclaws make models, and I could go into this huge like argument about Sam never making a model in his life, but
right.
And I don't, and Ravenclaws have truths that they base these models around, and I don't think Sam, no, because I would say Sam's truth is himself and protecting other, and then you're like Slytherin, like it's not a Ravenclaw modeling a Slytherin either. He is a Slytherin.
Yeah, and I don't think that Sam would have the patience for just imbibing knowledge for the sake of like knowing random facts or learning about things. Of course, he loves to learn. He was going to be a lawyer, but the motivation from going to law school, from researching for cases, every case people make for Ravenclaw Sam because of his head in a book, every time he does one of those things, it is to further benefit him in some way in that moment. It's not just because he wants to learn about it, right? It's because he knows that's a path to moving toward a goal that he wants to achieve. So if it's researching a monster, obviously he's doing it so he knows how to kill it. And he knows how best to do that coming out unscathed. That's why he's researching. And probably because Dean doesn't have the friggin' patience for it half the time. So he's like, God, you're stupid. Fine, I'll do it. Right? I don't think he's thrilled every single time, but I do think he loves reading, right? We'll go down to the basics of it. I do think he loves learning. I do think he has a thirst for knowledge. Sure, of course. But I just think that the arguments made for him are not fully, like, they don't describe a Ravenclaw at the end of it when you really put Sam in it. It just doesn't.
Nope. Yeah, that's it. That sums it up. That's the Winchester brothers, Gryffindor and Slytherin, two extremely dumbasses.
Yeah.
And Rachel and I knew this was going to happen, but we've talked way too long about the Winchester brothers.
Oh boy.
So you, luckily, are going to get a separate episode all about Cass and Jack, which I guess will be a bonus episode. Yay! Because
Yay!
Rachel and I talk too much, and we promised this. Well, I can't promise that.
Don't promise that.
This might be the only time we talk too much, just because, like we said, we were so ready for it.
Right.
But
and it's a big deal, right? Okay. I mean, I fully feel that Cass is a Winchester and is just a huge part of the show. And I'm not the person who's going to go, but it's a show just about Sam and Dean. Like, it's just Sam and Dean. It's a brothers show, right? I'm not going to do that. I don't do that. But it started with them and it's coming to an end. So I think it's just very fitting for our first episode, for where we are in the fandom, for who we are as people, how we even became friends. Of course, this episode is extremely long and went way over time. Of course it did.
And of course it's being split into two. Yay! So
Yay.
Hope you guys enjoyed that. Well, I guess we'll see you next week for a bonus.
Yes. And, feel free to disagree.
Yeah.
It's totally fine.
Always. We won't listen, but
we won't.
Free.
They're a Gryffindor and Slytherin, but you can say something else. It's cool.
Thanks for listening, guys. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Sort of Brilliant. If our sorting choices inspired any rage or excitement, we'd love to hear from you. We're open to feedback, suggestions for characters to sort, and solid counter-arguments with citations.
Never forget your citations. You can find us hanging out on Twitter and Instagram at SOB_pod, or shoot us an email at sortofbrilliant@gmail.com.
And since we're not above begging, please rate and subscribe to Sort of Brilliant on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. Please share our posts on social media, and if you're a Gryffindor, maybe you'll inspire sorting fights among your own friend group.
Our theme music is Hot Shot by Scott Holmes. Can't wait to sort with you again next time. Bye!